I feel like this is a moment I'm always going to remember. Oh my gosh, there's a face. I'm here today in a canyon outside of Los Alamos, America's formerly secret nuclear town, part of the Manhattan Project. I'm here today looking at a different kind of mystery, a different kind of secret. About 80 years ago, 1946, a former teacher reported in a newspaper about some strange rock carvings down in the canyon. They were flat, but they had geometric shapes, kind of like if you've ever been to a museum and seen one of those dioramas of a town where all the buildings are laid out from an overhead format, kind of like a city planner would make up a town. Well, there's up to 30 carvings hidden in this canyon, which the school teacher attributed to mischievous school children trying to emulate indigenous artwork. Some of the canyons and carvings in Bandelier National Monument of the ancient Pueblo people look similar, and the teacher says that they think that these carvings are done by school children trying to make a similar representation of what they would see out in like the indigenous lands. Well, the school children vehemently denied this and said that, they never would have conducted such vandalism of the rocks. And it's kind of stayed a mystery ever since. They've been known since about 1918, 1919, I believe, to have existed. But since the school children that were around at the time denied it happened, and the only allegation that it was made by anyone was from this one school teacher in 1946, no one has really stepped up to, have a better theory. So my goal is just to find them and then get some good pictures of them and see what I can match up and see if I can solve this. So it's pretty much an on-the-fly investigation. Okay, so coming down the trail here, and this is one of the first rock carvings. Look at that terracing. At first glance, it reminds me of some of the Aztec carvings that were meant for sacrifice, where blood was meant to flow down in channels. So that's just the first thing, first thing when I think of stone carving that looks something like this. I've seen some similar stuff in Mesoamerican situations. Alright, so that's number one. And yeah, it is interesting. It certainly is well carved. Little steps. Kind of looks like a little stone terrace. I see another one over here. Something tells me school children don't have the patience or dedication to carve 30 boulders into miniature stone towns. That's just my gut reaction. I guess you could get super bored out here, but that does not look new. I mean, that's old. I mean, that's not 100 years old either. Not that I know anything about anything, but I've seen 100-year-old rocks and 100-year-old carvings, and that's a lot of weathering. Alright, there we have another. The same interesting geometric lines, cuts, right angles. That's what I'm looking for, is right angles, because in a very few exceptions, nature does not make right angles. And here comes the rain into the canyon. Well, rain might actually provide some contrast to the rock carving, so I'm actually kind of excited to see what it does. That is one of the coolest rock carvings I've ever seen. It's definitely supposed to be something. Man. I wonder if anyone's ever tried to compare these to any other Pueblo towns or towns in Mexico. anything that people would have associated or been able to visit in Mexico or in the American Southwest that would look anything like this. It's almost like a little channel again. It's so hard to tell if these were made for like some sort of ritual pouring of oblation, or if they're supposed to, or a game. See, it looks like something could have rolled down a little track. See, like maybe you're rolling a ball, it comes down here. Man, I just feel like something was meant to roll. I get the feeling of motion, and honestly of a gamesmanship sort of thing. It kind of reminds me of one of those, you watch Survivor, one of those big puzzles where they roll the ball down, you have to control it. I mean, look at all these junction points. Decision point, decision point, decision point, decision point. Ball could go either direction. You know, maybe you win that one, you move on to this one. I'm just completely speculating right now, but when you see differences in height and channels like this, you have to ask yourself, okay, here's one more. There are so many of these things. Once again, interesting stair-step pattern all on a slope. This one's really worn down. And here we go again. Look at that. I mean, I want to see if I can, like, if you just roll something down it. Alright, it goes off right there, but doesn't it feel meant to have, doesn't it feel like it's meant to have something to roll down it? You know, I was so concentrated looking at the front side of this, I didn't realize the steps wrapped all the way around. Look at that. I mean, dang, does that not remind you of like maybe a Mesoamerican Aztec temple, like Temple of Jaguar with all the steps leading up to the top? First glance, could be multiple things, but it's a really unique stair step. Definitely cut out very particularly well. Definitely cut out very particularly well. Oh, what is that? Diamond shape something? We got a big chiseled mark. Another slope. Oh, look at that. I didn't see that before. Oh my goodness. I'm just starting to hit the jackpot here. That is a crazy mark. Starts up here, goes around, down to this point, comes from here, goes all the way around the top. This calls for one thing. You gotta test a hypothesis. I feel like I want to pour water down this rock. So tomorrow morning, that is what we're going to do. We're going to come back here with a lot of water. Man, I don't even know if I saw this one already. Did I see this one yet? This whole area is just a crazy number of them. Yeah. I don't know much, but I can tell you one thing. School kids did not build all this. No way. No school kid has ever been bored enough to carve 30 rocks. And if so, someone would have noticed. Good morning. Well, day 2, I'm back here at the mysterious stones And one of the things I want to do today is just test out a couple of theories I had last night, and I'll go over some more of my thoughts that I came up with overnight. One of the things I thought about is in Mesoamerica there's different places where liquid was meant to be poured down the stone carving. So one of the things I want to do is just to try and just pour a whole bunch of water at the top and see if it follows any logical path. That makes any sort of sense. It's definitely split in two right there. Huh. So it follows a pretty distinct path if you start pouring right there. Pretty much goes right down to that point. Alright, now I wonder, there's these little notches at the top, see these two little notches? I wonder if I start pouring here, where it goes. So those notches bring it down there. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if I'm really proving or disproving anything on this one. It does really look like a terrace. It really does look like a terrace. It's so straight. This one I'm going to put in the category of meant to represent something the people here had either seen or dreamed about. That's kind of the category. If it is something else, like some other city that they had visited, thought they'd make a representation of, that's my most likely guess on that one. It does not seem to have enough channels between the terraces for it to be something that liquid was meant to pour down. The other big one is this one right here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pour water through it because that's what I came here to do. But I thought about this and thought about this and thought about this last night, and something really hit me. You see this giant ellipse line right here? That is a substantial mark, substantial ellipse. And something in this area, not too far away, is Chaco Canyon. And I'll do a comparison in the video showing if they line up or if they don't line up. But one thing I do know about Chaco Canyon is there's a structure with a massive ellipse there. So that's really interesting. I'm just going to leave this jug pouring up here so we can kind of see. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to be seeing here, if anything. I mean, water does flow through it, but it doesn't do anything especially interesting, if I could say it like that. I don't think it's, in other words, I don't think it's anything so remarkable that I'd be like, aha, water revealed such and such. So once again, this is making me lean towards the idea that that was a representation of the city. This one over here is one of the ones with a pretty steep curve though. And I know in the Bandelier National Monument there's really interesting places where the paths going up to the town curve just like this. And so last night I know I was mentioning maybe it's a game, but I'm going to show you some paths carved into the rock leading up to towns in Bandelier and other Pueblo villages around here that look just like that. So I think I found a new one here. This beautiful outcropping. This is one I didn't see last night. Let's look for the hallmarks. Carved, deep, winding path up to the top where there's a blocky structure. Carved, deep, winding path up to that blocky structure. Yeah. Path up to a village, basically. So if I was going to sit here and give you my final thoughts on what these are, what they're meant to represent, I have to think about the whole context of the canyon, the people that were here within the last 200-300 years, because these are 1,000 years old. The rock is very soft and be weathered away. So just guessing, 1700s, 1800s. This was Spanish territory. The Spanish did bring a lot of animals, including sheep, to this part of the world. So the kind of person that would have made this is the kind of person that's returning again and again to this canyon, probably over a long period of time, and had the time to sit here and do these carvings. So that's a finite group of people. If it's not a large top-down project for the betterment of the whole community, generally large-scale projects don't happen in the more hunter-gatherer situation. That's why places like Göbekli Tepe are so interesting, because that amount of resources was dedicated to something other than hunting and gathering. It was dedicated toward building a large project. Now this one reminds me of someone that's sitting here, probably letting their sheep graze, and they're thinking of home. They're thinking of a place 30 miles away, 100 miles away, Chaco Canyon, and they're sitting here and they have the time. Sheep are down the valley, and they are just carving. They had the time to do it. They're missing home. Their sheep are down there grazing, because this is a pretty fertile area compared to some of the hills around here. And what they do is they carve home. It's beautiful. They carve their hometown. Maybe another shepherd comes in and is like, oh, I see what you're doing there. And he carves his hometown. Oh my gosh, there's a face. Just when you thought you've seen it all and you're doing the wrap-up summary video, there's a face. Oh, that almost scared me. Just jumped right out of the rock there. Wow. Eyes, nose, mouth. Crude, but a face. These mountains continually surprise me. There's so many of these. This one right here. Wow, I didn't even see that one. The boulders are and there's another one I hadn't seen before. The boulders are just littered with these. So, as I was saying, these are just... Oh, actually, I did see that one before from the other side. I just didn't see this piece on this side. But as I was saying, whoever made these had the time. And a few people back a couple hundred years ago had the time to just sit and carve. The people that did have the time to just sit and carve were those that were technically doing something else. Sheep herders, people that were watching. Their job was to watch. Their job was to sit in place and let their animals graze. So if I was to give you my absolutely amateur opinion, these are carvings 17 to 1800s done by roaming sheep herders, probably a mix of Spanish, indigenous people that were in this area that brought their animals through here and that had the time to sit and carve representations of home, whether that be Chaco area, the Bonita people, Pueblos. They had time to carve images of home, and it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of beautiful because it probably took them several days to get through these mountains. It takes me an hour to drive it, but it probably took them a while. And maybe when they would come back here and camp up, and they would see the old familiar paths, the old familiar terraces, it would make being out here alone in the mountains a little easier. I know I'm drawing a lot of conclusions here, not based on a lot, but I've spent maybe 2-3 hours up in this exact part, just walking around the hills and thinking about what I would be doing, what I'd be thinking if I had no phone, just a bunch of sheep, no internet, nothing to do, and I'm sitting up here watching my sheep down there in the valley. What would I be doing? Would I be missing home? Probably. If I had a rock and a nice boulder and these are easy to carve, I might try to carve it. And once I got going, probably other people, it wasn't just one person here, probably other people added their town, added their pueblo, put their little mark on it. So in a way, this is kind of a distributed art project among shepherds, in my opinion, that lasted probably decades. And it's truly beautiful, and I hope that enough people learn about this that it gets preserved, because the rock is quite soft, and something needs to be done with LiDAR to image the whole area and map it out, because there's still the idea that there's still the possibility that I'm missing something, and that there's a bigger meaning to this whole picture. But I hate to be someone that draws these fast, grand conclusions about, okay, wow, this is meant to be a map of the world, and here's where the Incan villages were, and here's where Columbus landed, and this is a map of ancient, I don't know, Carthage. I hate to draw these grand conclusions when I think that the more likely one is just as beautiful.